Been around the industry for last 20, over 22 years, focusing a lot on the enterprise delivery. From last 10 years, I've been working a lot on AI. Initially started with the traditional AI, then moved into the new paradigm of generative AI and agents and whatnot. And again, I write a lot about AI, so you can find my writings in my website, ajith.com, and you can always follow me on LinkedIn as well if you want to get more insights on what I usually do. So having said that, we have a packed agenda, so we'll just get into the details as we get started. So the first thing, usually people ask us, all the people that we have, at least a lot of people that we have here is, should I be worried about AI taking my job? So a lot of you have that question, right? So that's one of the primary concerns that we see when we see the AI adoption that's happening. But in my perspective, that's a very wrong question. So if you look at it, there are 1.1 billion weekly AI users. And if you look at that means around 13% of the world is currently using AI, right? So 86% of the students are already using some kind of an AI tools. And 50% of those students, at least in US, is depending a lot on AI to do their studies. Okay. So now the question is, how do I stay valuable in this AI? If you look at it, after the industrial revolution that happened when we invented the electricity, I would call we are in an interesting time where we are seeing another revolution that's happening across the globe about how by transforming a lot of things that we do that we used to do manually is getting moved into AI. And so that's what is happening. So the most important aspect for you is to understand what the tools are available, where the AI is going, so that you can navigate it, you can be successful in this. That's what we're going to talk about in this session. Okay. All right. So now talking about AI. So I know from last 2, 3 years we have been hearing a lot about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the one that actually turned this whole generative AI into a common mass adoption kind of an tool or mechanism, right? So even before that, we had AI in our day-to-day life. So even your YouTube or Spotify, the next song that you see, obviously the recommendation that you come, it's come from an AI. It has been there forever, right? And the Google Maps, the moment it says that you are detecting a traffic and you're trying to reroute the traffic based on what it sees as traffic, that's again based on the traffic pattern that every mobile that is using Google Maps is sending some the about the information about the GPS coordinates and GPS strat data, and based on that, it is able to identify and predict the traffic, and it is able to give you those recommendations saying that okay, don't go through that route, that road may be closed, and go to some other direction. The same way you probably will have got a lot of text from your bank saying that there's a fraudulent transaction that happened, right? That's again a it happens in milliseconds. The moment you swipe a credit card, you just get somebody swipes a credit card, you just get a notification saying that there may be some kind of fraudulent activity. So that's again AI. And now, if for a simple example, the moment you open the phone, the way you open the phone, be it your thumb or be it your face, using the Face ID, that's again AI. So it has been there forever. But now what happens is now with this whole the natural language based AI interaction that happens started from ChatGPT is transforming the way the AI is being perceived and the AI being used. Now, take an example of this search, right? So obviously, uh, the next aspect that we want to talk about is a search. You remember the days. At least now I don't use Google at all these days. Okay, so if I want to search something, I gone on the days where we used to use Google as the primary mechanism for searching. Google had over 90% of the search of the entire user in the entire internet, and now it has been started. If you start looking at it, around 20% started declining year over year. That's primarily because now people are going beyond Google, and they wanted to know if you want to know something, they instead of just go to the Google and search and go through the different websites to gather the information, they can use tools like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to gather the information that they wanted very easily. They don't have to go through the sites. So if you look at from a market share perspective, ChatGPT had around 2.5 billion prompts done every day. That is again, it's around, if you look at the actual weekly users, it's 10% of the world's population. So that's the way the extent in which AI is transforming the world. So is Gemini. Gemini is becoming very common in a lot of places, especially if you go to India. I mean, Perplexity and Gemini has been given. Gemini has a pro version which has been given as free for Geo customers and things like that. So it's been adopted, right? So now, interesting aspect is now we spoke about human interacting with internet. There's an interesting aspect also that's happening here. 1 in 31 web visits now is done by an agent or a bot, a AI bot. That's pivotal, right? I mean, if you look at it, the whole world is changing. Now you can see that the AI is getting into our normal life. It started changing the way we do the things. So now internet itself is splitting in two different ways because now you want to have something that you can serve humans, and you also need to have a similar kind of a mechanism that you can serve for AI. I don't want to get into those details right now because if we have time towards the end, we can discuss about what the strategy is, how things are changing. But I just want to give you a high level idea about this is the way the world is moving. So now look at it. So how is AI is helping us, right? So now if you want to create, so obviously the large language model that we see as ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or Claude, they're good in predicting the next token or the next word in that matter, right? So that's the way it is. I mean, I don't want to get into the technical details again here, but that's the way it works. I mean, if you look at it, you ask a question. If you ask, okay, which is the capital of India, what it does is it predicts the next word. That it keeps on predicting next letter. First it predicts D, then it go to E, EL. So that's the way it's predicting. So that's the way that's what it's called a generative AI, right? So now you can use it for creating essays. You can use it to compose your emails, creating reports. You can just use all these. I mean, different in different use cases you can use it. Has you've been using AI now, if you look at it, Nano Banana and DALI and other things, you can create realistic images for you. You don't have to worry about clicking a picture or and enhancing it. You can just ask AI, give a prompt. It's going to give you a response back with a beautiful image that you really wanted for you. The interesting aspect is about videos now. So now 8 seconds videos. I mean, so if you're using Gemini Pro or there's another one more from ChatGPT, the Sora. So you can create videos with sound in with audio, and you can just start using it. I mean, and now the next aspect is code, right? I mean, so you can the next thing that you can do is the AI can generate code. We'll get into the deals about code later. There is other tools even now. Even Gemini provides ability to create music. So now what happens is the creative barrier that people had before has been transformed because it's becoming a lot lesser because of these tools. Because if you have a creativity, if you have a thought in your mind, you can convert that without having the technical knowledge of how to do it using AI. That's the big pivotal moment for all of us, right? Um, So now let's talk about what are the different models, right? So when spoke about different models, I just want to quickly touch upon on this aspect so that you understand the landscape of it. So if I really broadly divide the different kind of models that is available, you obviously have the closed source models. So GPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, they're all closed source models. When I say closed source models, it is by a specific company. They don't share the details about how they build the model. They probably might share about some data about what kind of data they use for training the model, but it is primarily it's their own proprietary logic on which that models are built. So, and the biggest challenge with these kind of models are obviously the data that you providing will go to their network, and obviously, I mean, go out of your network, it'll go to their system, and if you don't opt out, they can use that data to train again. So that means your personal data, some kind of personal data and personal information can be compromised, right? So the next aspect is the open source or open weight models. That means when you talk purely an open source model, for example, DeepSeek R2, which is from China, what they're providing, they provide the code, so the source code for it. They provide what they've trained, how they've trained the data, what kind of data they used for it, and you can download that into your infrastructure and can start using it. That means that model lives in your infrastructure. You are not sharing any data with any vendors. There's another set of model called open weight models. For example, the Llama, which is from Meta, is an open weight model. So they don't give the details about how you train a model, but it gives the details about what are the weights of the model. I don't want to get into the technical details about what the weights of the model is. We can take that as part of the Q&A, and we can answer this question if you have something. So the good thing about that is it is again self-hostable. That means you can host this model within your infrastructure, and you can customize it and fine tune it. Customizing can be done to make the model size smaller, or you can, if you want to specifically build a specific capability based on certain use cases that you will have an ability to fine tune those models. And if you look at it, I mean, the quality of closed source and open source, it's kind of it. I mean, if you look at most of the, I mean, DeepSeek models are as equivalent or better than GPT models. Or for example, I mean, it's that the whole gap between the closed source and open source models are shortening right now, and which is a good thing because that's making these I mean AI is more accessible for everyone and for a cheaper cost for it. Another aspect that I just want to quickly cover is about sovereign AI. So if you look at a lot of the countries at this point of time are thinking about, they don't want to send their models, they don't want to send their data specifically to any other countries. For example, India is building something called Krutrim, which is a sovereign model, which is primarily focused for serving India. In the similar way, there is Falcon from UAE, the GCC area. There's Mistral from France. So there are models like that that's coming up. So it's primarily what happens is, it's a very important aspect that's happening these days is the shift of the countries to have their own sovereign AI models. That means the data remains in their own country. So let's go to the next step. So we spoke about different type of models, who builds the model, right? I mean, I just want to have one more aspect that I want to cover about here is what are the different kind of models, right? So the lot of the people know about is the large language model that we see in our in ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. So they are big models that's primarily used. It needs a lot of resources, and it needs a lot of it needs a data center to host these models. It serves a mass set of people, and it has extensive capabilities. Now, if you go to the next aspect of it, if you don't want that, and if you want some models to be running locally in your laptop, I mean, if you have a pretty beefed up laptop, you should be able to run those models locally. Those are called small language models. It has the similar kind of capability as the large language models, but the good thing about that is they can focus it. As I said before, you can fine tune, you can just use it for your own purposes, and you can run it locally, and your data stays private, and it has limited capability. But again, it's if you're specifically using for something of your own use cases, you can run those. The next one is about edge models. They are again smaller models that you can run on your mobile, which has absolutely, you don't need any network. You can just run. You can run it on. It can give you millisecond responses, but it runs locally in your phone or in an IoT device. That's primarily used for image detections, and if you wanna run something specifically on a phone, then they can run those edge models. So this is the landscape of different kind of models that's available at this point of time. So now the good thing is the more about how do you use these models is the question, right? So based on your architecture, based on your application that you're building, or based on your use cases, the common practice is right now to mix and match and use these to give the best user experiences. Okay, now we spoke about every all the models. You just give a high level landscape about what's happening right now, right? So now we'll think about how people are using it. I mean, so how people are using the models, how they're leveraging these to the in this 2020 2026. Okay, let's get to that. So the most important thing, where the major disruption is happening right now is in the coding space. So Andre Karpathy came with a very interesting word called vibe coding. So what happens is, when in vibe coding, what happens is you tell what your software needs to be in plain English, and your model, your large language model or small language model, it is able to generate that code for you. And you don't write any code, you don't touch your computer with, you don't touch your IDE or your application development environment, and that application is built for you. That's what primarily meant by vibe coding. So, and interestingly, the Collins Dictionary made that as the word of the year in 2025. So now you can understand how important it is. And now a few interesting aspects of it is sometimes it might feel scary to you, but that's a fact. 92% of the US development team or any developer in US is using some or the other way the AI assisted coding. And 43% of the code that is being generated in 2026 is AI generated. And 25% of Y Combinator startup that's coming up is these building applications using vibe coding, completely using vibe coding. So now let's take a look at what are the different aspects of vibe coding, right? So there are different aspects that you need to know about from when you look from a vibe coding perspective, right? So I've categorized that into 6 levels if you look at it here. So the first one is auto. So when I say autocomplete, I mean, remember, you probably remember if you are from a coding background that you had IDEs, Eclipse, JetBrains, I mean, other IDEs where you start typing something, it's going to show you what the possible the completions for that, right? So that we started from there. Then what you had was then you can just tell that okay, write. So that was the first level or the L0 of AI the assisted coding. Then we came up with saying that, okay, now I have a function, I just want to write a test case for it, or just want to be specific small task. That is the L1 part of it. So now the second aspect is, I mean, now if you look at the L2, which what the 90% of the industry right now is here is called um, um, code-based navigation. What it does is say that you can just say that, okay, now add a specific functionality for an existing code base. It can understand what the functionality of that code is. It can look at what are the different available APIs and methods and what language it's using. It is able to generate that specific piece of code for you. And now, if you go further next, and where the world is going right now in 2026 is feature building. So it says that now I can, instead of just saying that, okay, I just want to build a specific part of a code, I can say that build me a dashboard or create a dashboard with these 5 KPIs, and it'll be able to create that entire dashboard for you. But you just give the directions to it, you just give a limited input to it, it might come back and ask you, okay, what kind of a dashboard that you want to see? What is the nature of the if you give the more information that you give to it, it's going to make that more interactive dashboard for you. So now the next spec, our next one that is currently working is spec driven development. So you create a product requirement document. You say that okay, these are the different functionalities I want in a specific uh, functionality in a specific application. And based on the PRD, it will break down that into multiple smaller tasks, understand what needs to be run. I mean, what is the existing code? It will create the new functionality for you. That's again called a spec-driven development. That's happening a lot these days. And it's happening, but it's not completely. I mean, if you look at it, it's not completely popular at this point of time. But again, if you look at these YC people and other people, that's the way that's where it's going. And if you look at the next one is the full autonomy. It is not there fully there yet, but people are building it. That's again, you just give the spec, the software is out. I mean, I'll give you some simple examples about what's happening right now. Okay, so probably a lot of you would have heard about Cloud Code, right? Cloud Code is one of the it's one of the most significant development that happened from Cloud, which is generating the auto. It can generate the code for you. That entire Cloud Code, the first version of it was built in 10 days using completely using AI. There was not even a single human being was part of building this software. I mean, obviously there was supervision given to it, but that the entire code was built by AI. If you look at it, a lot of functionality in the similar way. If you look at it, OpenAI and other the frontier application, Amazon, and a lot of people, a lot of these big organizations are moving towards AI assisted coding. So it's significant, right? I mean, it's very significant from our perspective because this is changing the world, the software industry as we see at this point of time. A lot of people came to this country as a software engineer or working in software industry. So now this is changing a lot in your life. So, and if you look at it, most of the organizations that stuck in L2. That's one aspect that I told you before. But again, Microsoft again did some they did a research on it, and what they found was around 300, I mean around 300,000 Copilot users. Excitement initially gets started with an excitement, then it started slowing down because they were not getting the value out of it. We'll get to the why that value was not coming to a little later, but this is the landscape that we are at this point of time. So one of the major areas where we are seeing the biggest disruption right now is on coding side. So now let's talk about what AI can do. I mean, now the reason why I'm bringing this up is why I mean, if you go from here, why the feature building from L3 to L5 is not happening. What are the reasons why behind it, right? So Harvard and BCG together, they gave around I mean, 750 consultants AI tools for them to go ahead and build whatever you want, right? So what they studied from there is they were able to get 40% improvement. So that means so if it is a regular data analysis, writing data formatting, synthesis of data, AI was able to do very quickly. But this is where the problem started happening. So the moment you get into a messier data, which is actually your real data in your future, in your world, is not really as clear as what you think, right? So the moment and it gets into I mean, messier data, and if they want to build a new strategy or they want to build a new architecture, AI perform very, very bad. So if you look at it, the AI, I mean, if you really want to understand where AI is helping is if you want to rate a function or a functionality from a clear spec, and if you want to do scaffolding of your basic application layout, you can convert the data from one format to the other format. You can create the boilerplate code, and you can create the user-defined behavior. These are the places where this coding assistants excel really well. But when you get to the other aspect, the other part of the spectrum, which is like deciding what to build or whether the output is trustworthy or edge cases or that where you need the expert domain experiences, and if you give them ambiguous requirements and architecture decisions for long-term goals, I mean, so in those kind of scenarios, the AI was performing very, very pathetically. That is the current state. It can change, but again, that's where we are right now. So now let's talk about how the industry is responding it, right? So now, as I said, till 2024, we were talking about generation as the major aspect of it, right? So we give them the prompts, AI generated responses, ChatGPT was great. It was giving all the responses that we wanted, though it was hallucinated sometimes. It was giving the answers. So, and then what we did is we used those answers that we got from these tools for doing the decision making. The decision making was done by the human, but they are augmented or assisted by this generated AI. But now, if you look at it from 2025, the whole aspect is changing. The whole format is changing, right? So now I'll tell you a simple example, then we'll walk through what exactly it is. So now, I mean, if you go to the Google, I mean, if you go to the Chat GPT, there is something called agent mode. I can say that book me a weekend trip to some place, and my range is this. What it does is it uses different tools and different paradigms. I mean, you can just go and check your calendar to understand, okay, what time is your, do you have any meetings or how is your calendar? And based on that, then you can go ahead and search the flights for you, and you can find out the cheapest price flight tickets based on your calendar availability and the time. And you can also find out what are the different hotel availabilities are. And if you give a specific place areas, if you give specific preferences, based on the preferences, it can compare the hotels and it can book the best options. It can even come back and tell you, okay, these are the options that I found, and then you can provide feedback to it. Can go back and book those tickets for you. So now what happens is you don't need any separate applications to do it. You don't need any other, you don't need to go to multiple search tabs to do it. It's primarily getting done for you. So in that way, what's happening right now is you are giving a generic goal saying that, okay, this is what I need as my end goal is. The system understands that, it split that into small multiple tasks, and it does this task by calling appropriate necessary tools, or it needs to do whatever appropriate action. It comes back and it has ability to read databases. It has ability to iterate multiple times to get these things done, and it can give you a final response back. So now what happens is, you're writing the specifications here, and you're just telling what to be done. And primarily, your agents are able to go and get that specific action done for you and come back to you. That's what is happening right now. Now, again, this is again more for the people who are doing that other course at this point of time from the KHNJ, the AWS course. If you look at it, everything lies on the cloud infrastructure, right? So if you look at, if you go from this, the whole stack that we have, if you go from bottoms up, you can say that the cloud infrastructure is the place where usually you run these infrastructure or your applications. On the top of it, in that cloud, you host your data layer. That means you have your databases, you have your different kind of data that you want to store there. It's there. And the top of it, and that data is being primarily used by your large language or the small language models. And you can just use interchangeably these models. And the top of it, there are a few protocols and orchestration. We'll get to that in a minute. What it is going to give you kind of a high level idea about what these are. And on the top of it sits the agentic applications. Primarily now, that's the reason there's a big, I mean, now if you look at it, Claude that came back with last week came back something called Claude Cowork, which can do these kind of actions. It can just tell it to analyze a Excel file. It probably what you can see that if you have ever used it, you can see that it breaks down that into small tasks. It completes that, come back to you and do this for you. And the entire Cowork, at least the infrastructure part of it's running from the AWS infrastructure, and it runs as an application on the top of it. And the way it interacts with different tools is using MCP. So, but the interesting aspect of it is, it's primarily, we can say that it's a great aspect. But again, a lot of companies are failing in doing it because they're not able to get this right. So, and Gartner again predicts that 40% of all the enterprise application will have some kind of an AI or an agentic process attached to it by end of 2026 to remain relevant. So now, how does this agent work, right? That's the most important aspect you need to understand, because the models don't have all the access to all the data, right? So it needs to have different protocols or the wirings for it to make it successful. The first one is model context protocol. We call it as USB-C for AI. So what happens in MCP is, if you want to interact with a database, or if you want to interact with an external tool, or interact with a browser for the model to do certain action, it needs to perform those actions, right? So that's where the MCP comes into the picture. So it is, again, it came primarily, it was invented by, or not invented, we can say that this was introduced by Claude, what that's being used as a de facto standard for connecting to any external data that the models wanted to perform its execution. The next aspect is again from agent to agent protocol. So now again, I said before that agents are interacting with each other, right? So when you go to the interact, we'll talk a little bit more about multi-agent collaboration a little later. But primarily what happens is agent to agent, it's again another protocol built by a standard built by Google, which helps these different agents to talk to each other. The next one is, again, most important aspect is, now you agent can start doing the financial transactions for you. So that means you can ask agent to say that, okay, get me the best possible phone for me, or get me the best possible um, um, whatever, I mean, for that matter. So you can just say that, okay, get me the best clothes for me or whatever. So what it can do is, it can go back and identify what is the best deal that's available, and it can interact with that the organization which is selling it, the company that's selling it. It'll be able to go and do that purchase on behalf of you. That's what is called as agent commerce protocol. So this is purchasing inside AI conversations. The next one is universal commerce protocol. It's full shopping journey. That's again something came from uh, Google. This is again, they're interacting, they're collaborating with Shopify to build this UCP protocols. So these are the kind of things. I mean, being you are getting into a lot of people here are the people who are part of that the cloud course that you're doing. This is important for you to understand. These are the different protocols that's in the world right now, and you need to be aware of these things when you start building your AI solutions moving forward. Okay, so now. So my agent, I mean, again, and pulling back to the ACP and the other protocols, if you look at it, around $20 billion, we are expecting the agent commerce to be around 20 billion transactions, $20 billion by end of 2026. Okay. So that means, I mean, right now, if you look at it, buying ChatGPT is an option. You can go ahead and buy things using ChatGPT. I think Google is also coming with something similar, where you don't have to go to the site and buy things. You can directly go and buy whatever product that you want to buy from directly from ChatGPT. So the most important aspect is when you are now right now we are talking about is more about when you're interacting with ChatGPT, it is more of an interactive action that's happening. But agents are meant to be autonomous. So moving forward, they are going to be autonomous. It doesn't need a lot of human interaction that's going on. So that means whenever, for example, for a store, for a given organization, if it realizes that, let's say their toner for their printer is running low, and it can go and buy that toner for your organization without even anybody doing a manual action on it. That's the way the agent autonomy is going to happen. But when you talk about it, when we are doing something like that, there's the most important aspect that you need to have is to make sure that these agent transactions are secure and it's safe, auditable. Agentic systems are the most important aspect that you need to have moving forward to make these agent transactions more successful and error-free. It comes to a point where you need to understand is that you start building these agentic systems moving forward in the future. You definitely need to have that understanding of how agents can be made secure. That is the most important aspect you should be knowing. Now, again, I'm pivoting a little bit. So now we spoke about agents, and now with all these different things, how this is going to affect the world, right? I mean, how this is going to change the globe. So now, when the Goldman Sachs did a study last year, they said that it's going to have 300 million jobs are going to be affected globally with this AI transformation. So, but again, if you look at it, some of them are, when I say total jobs, it means there is a new set of jobs that's coming in, and there are a lot of the existing jobs that's going away. So, for example, so the entry level programmers, you don't need a entry level programmers anymore for you to write your boilerplate codes. That's what usually the people who usually came in as a fresh college grad used to do, right? And then if they want to do any comparisons, if they want to do any kind of a document review or document formatting, and if you want to do the first level of support, those are all jobs that's going to go away, that's going to get transformed into AI jobs. I mean, AI is going to take over those action that you used to do from a human. But again, if you look at what is not there, I mean, so these are the capabilities that AI can do, but AI cannot decide what to build, right? I mean, so basically, you need to have an idea, you need to have that experience on your domain to understand. Okay, this application can be built. That application. Okay. Can somebody go on mute? I think somebody is on. Okay, cool.
Done.
So now, writing the right specs to build the application, right? So the next important aspect is to build. I mean, if you want to build something, now you decided that you want to build something. How do you build it? How do you give the clear spec? What exactly going to be the requirement for that application? That's something definitely AI will not be able to completely capture that your complete business requirements at this point of time. I'm not saying that won't be able to do in the future, but that's something that you need to think about. Then evaluating the output. So now when the agent is spending money and if agent is doing certain action, you need to make sure that what agent is doing is right. That's where the human in the loop comes to the picture, where human needs to understand what the context in which AI did certain actions to understand what the AI is doing. Is that the right thing to do at the right point of time? So that's something they need to do. That's again something that agent or AI cannot do at this point of time. That's where the jobs, these are the areas where the jobs are going to come. The new jobs are going to be appearing. And another aspect is about AI governance, which is a very important aspect that's coming because a lot of countries, a lot of GOs are coming with new governance rules to make sure that AI is trustworthy and not harmful for people. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but this is where the whole job shift is happening. Now, talking about the regulations, right? So I was talking about the regulations. So EU is very, very, you can call it the pioneers in defining that AI Act. They are enforcing the AI Acts to make sure that AI is trustworthy and auditable and accountable. Any AI system that is built beyond 2026 August needs to have to adhere to these rules. Otherwise, they'll have very heavy fines on the top of it. In US, there is no federal law at this point of time, but again, in states like California, Colorado, New York, these states are building their own specific AI laws. That is to make sure that, especially on the regulated industries like healthcare and financial, in the BFSI structure, so that the AI systems are more audited and it's more governed and controlled. In India also, there's no dedicated AI regulation yet, but at this point of time, and as we speak, the India government is in the process of creating the draft version of AI rules that will be implemented very soon. In the China already has a very effective AI rules. I mean, they're very, very stringent about how the data is labeled, how the data is used, what is the kind of model specs that you need to have, and they have a lot of compliance rules around it right now. Okay, so now we spoke about rules. So we spoke about the regulations. The next aspect that you need to know about is the governance aspect of AI, right? So now, as I said, AI is turning to more of an autonomous, instead of just being a helper, it's becoming more like a co-worker for you. When the AI does some act, I mean, when AI does actions, there are a few areas where you need to be making sure that the AI is doing the right thing. One is evaluation, right? So basically saying that AI is a probabilistic system. So when I say probabilistic system, you will not be getting the same response, over and over again. If you ask the same question to ChatGPT, though the answer may be um, from a grammarly and syntactically and semantically correct, the exact sentence, you're not going to get the same exact sentence from the AI. So that's what it's called as probabilistic applications. But whereas where you look about an application, if you look at the calculator application, when you give two numbers, it's always going to give the same answer back, right? So now, how do you make sure that whatever these AI is generating is evaluated and accurate? That's one aspect that you need to come consider in the AI governance aspect. Second aspect is you need to have a visibility of what agents are doing. Imagine an organization that's running a lot of agents, and they have procurement agent, they have purchasing agent, they have legal agent. They have HR agents. They want to understand at a given point of time what these agents are doing, how they're taking decisions, what data they're using for identifying these decisions, right? That's most important aspect that you should be doing. That's what is called as observability. That's where another set of jobs are going to come in the future about. And but again, this is again a most important aspect of building an agentic system. And the next aspect is about the security. Now, imagine when a AI chatbot is hallucinating, it's not going to make a bigger impact for you because now you are seeing that as a human being, you are seeing the response back, and you can make certain actions based on you use your judgment to see, okay, what AI said is correct or not. For example, I mean, when the Gemini, the first versions of Gemini from the Google, the model came out, there was a simple, there's a funny thing that happened. It said that it's good to eat stones. And there was it was a very controversial conversation, or one of the aspects that came from AI agents, right? So, but now imagine the AI agents are doing autonomous action. They are purchasing things on behalf of you. They are doing certain actions behalf of you. Even if a single error or single mistake that it does from its inference side, and if it is doing millions of this, I mean hundreds and thousands of those transactions, imagine the constraint, the problems that it can get into. So that's where you need to make sure that there are kill switches for your AI agents, and there is way you can handle the security of AI systems. And if the similarly, just like the way you have cyber vulnerabilities, there are vulnerabilities that you can have in AI system where you can just poison, or you can just give some bad data to it, or bad prompts to agents where you can elevate its capabilities. I don't want to get into the details of the security aspect here. We can have a separate section for it later. But considering that the most important aspect that you want is to have your agents to be secured. Otherwise, it's going to have a very, very cascading aspect. And right now, the success rate of AI attack is 84.3%. That means all out of all the agents that you have, 100 agents that you have in out in production, they 84 of them are vulnerable to the security issues. And it's scary, but it's again an area where that's the reason this the EU and other countries are coming with the strict regulations to make sure that there's a governance in place for AI. Now, the next aspect is accountability. I'll tell you a simple example. I mean, it happened in 2 years ago. Air Canada had a policy where if somebody is trying to book a ticket for the reason that their close relative passed away, and the price of the ticket is very high, they can go back and claim for a refund for the extra amount that you paid for your ticket. So that was an old policy that they had, and that policy was gone away after some time. So a person chatted with AI chatbot of Air Canada and asked this. I mean, then Air Canada quoted saying that, okay, this is a policy, and this person trusted that, and he went and bought the tickets. And when he went for the actual refund, the Air Canada said that that was a wrong old policy that was not enforced anymore. The AI gave a wrong answer. But Canada court said that no, even if so, AI agent acted on behalf of Air Canada, so the Air Canada is responsible to make that payment. So imagine it's not a big amount. It was not a big mistake also, but imagine that kind of a mistake AI agent is making. So who is accountable for that? That accountability also comes into the governance aspect of it. So these are the kind of high level things that you need to understand about what's happening at this point of time. Now let's talk about what about the other aspect that's happening right. So the if you look at the 2026 and 22 towards the 2025 and 2026 currently, these are like five frontier areas where AI is being I mean heavily it's changing, rapidly changing, and it's evolving, right? So the first thing is interface time computing. So you probably have heard about reasoning models, and if you go to the Chat GPT and other place and GPT or Claude or Gemini, when you enable the think mode, what it does is it reasons. So what it does, it thinks about the possibilities. It spits out what the possibilities of different possibilities. It understands through it. It takes the uh, what it does is with that thinking capability, the response coming from that model becomes significantly accurate as compared to a non-thinking model. So that's what is called as reasoning. So now the models, I mean, if you look at the frontier companies, are trying to move towards compute time for accuracy. They just want to give more compute time for the accuracy so that the people or the system that is using these models get more accurate results back. So now with that, what happens is it's more about system two thinking that's happening in the overall inference model. And if you look at the last aspect that I found, around 70%, 60 to 70% of the tokens generated now from these models are used for these reasoning aspects. Now, the next thing is about physical AI, right? So, I mean, look at it now everywhere you see. I mean, so if you have seen some of the NVIDIA presentation, you have seen a lot of robots are functioning, and they are able to do day-to-day tasks. They are able to do dancing. They are able to walk, do certain actions, and they started. There are some prototypes of robots who can do what I mean. You can fold your clothes and put your clothes in the. I mean, put your pans and pots in your dishwasher and things like that, right? So now it's moving. So now if you look at it, that's again, it's moving from the AIs. They are all powered by AI systems, right? So AI is living from screen. It's more about getting these autonomous vehicles. I mean, for example, Tesla, that means, again, if you look at it, that's an AI model that's running behind the screens, which is physically just doing certain actions for you. The same way you have autonomous drones, and they have robots that's coming into the picture, right? So NVIDIA, Tesla, and these are the companies who are working a lot on building these physical AI that's coming into the picture. Now, again, I spoke about the multi-agent teams before, right? So, if you look at given organization, an organization is not just one function. You have multiple functions that's working together coherently to do certain actions, right? So that's where you need different personas or different agents with different capabilities to do certain actions, and that multi-agent collaboration, that's what makes an AI system more successful, because an agent can produce some actions and produce some responses back and certain actions. Then there's a you can have reviewer agents and legal and compliance agents to make sure that whatever this agent is produced is compliant, as well as legally compliant, as well as accurate. So that's where this multi-agent coordination happens in the industry. So that's where the models are. That's where the 2026 is shifting, and you can see more and more of these kind of models happening. There more and more of these multi-agent ecosystems coming into the picture. The other bigger aspect is AI research. So gone are the days where you have to go and, for a simple example, for a simple research that you do, if you want to find out a specific about a specific new thing that's happening AI, the interesting way that you can do a deep research on your Google Gemini, or you can do a deep research on your Chat GPT or your Claude or whatever it is, right? So that's a limited kind of research that we do. But again, if you look into the alpha folder, multiple protein structure, or anything that you need to do with the drug discovery and physical in the physics also, when you do the material discovery and other things, that's actually that whole discovery aspect is getting moved from human to the AI assisted one. So AI can run different permutations and combinations and make sure that, I mean, and it can understand different gotchas, and it can just try to build that, do a better accurate research along with human to help you to complete the research very, very rapidly. So these are the kind of areas where AI is moving at this point of time. So now, next question is where the current job market is. Right? So if you look at it, these are some of the roles that is currently being hired, and these are the roles that's going to stay, at least at this point of time. These are the one that we can think of that's going to stay in the future. So these are the areas. I mean, as you are shifting, if you're thinking about shifting in your career, or if you are a young student who's looking for the career, you need to understand these are the areas where you need to start focusing on to become more relevant in the job market. So again, I know that you have some students who are part of that AI setup. I mean, the cloud course that we are doing. What you need to do, these are the four things that I would suggest you try to play around with this. So now, how do you evaluate your prompts? I mean, so make sure that you can evaluate before you generate. So learn how to evaluate before you generate, and build a simple chat application end to end. I mean, so pick a real problem and identify something that you can do, and just try to build an end to end solution. Maybe using the code. If you have the capability of writing the code, I would strongly suggest write the code for it, or try to use the vibe coding tools that's available right now. So try to build a simple solution for you, and try to build that for you, and understand more about what are the different these protocol layers are. Why is it relevant? How is it relevant? What is being used? This is another aspect that you need to know about it, because these standards are just started. Some of these standards just very, very new, but they started picking up a lot of traction, because that's going to help a lot in the agentic system. So you need to make sure that you understand what are the new protocols coming into the picture, what are the existing protocols available, so they'll help you to become successful. Another aspect is, even if you're building an AI system, you need to have a clear understanding about what the regulations are around you. So you need to make sure that you bring have an opinion on governance, understand what are the governance requirements that you need for any AI system that you want to build. That will definitely help you out in the future. And so now, again, if you look at it, this is the end of my presentation. So most important aspect is, a lot of people know how to, they will be using these tools, right? So I mean, the most important aspect is, how do you make sure that how do you understand you well enough to understand what to build and how what I mean, build what comes next. I mean, that's the most important aspect you should be having in your mind to think about what is the future, what is the how the future is evolving, and adapt yourself to the future. That's the most important aspect you should be aware of, and you should keep that in mind, and you should move forward with that. That's all from my presentation side. I mean, if you have questions, we can definitely ask those questions right now.
Thank you, Ajith. If you have any questions, please type or please ask here.
Ajith, good morning. This is Jayashree. Thank you for your time and a very, very impressive beginning to what AI is doing to all of us today. The only question, I'm not sure if this question is relevant to the audience here, but I wanted to understand how do you decide which model to use when you are using an AI tool? There are so many models out there. How do you decide? Or
That's a
are there
very
any guidelines?
interesting question, Jayashree. So, I mean, the thumb line, I mean, if you look at the thumb rulers, I mean, so different models have different capabilities. Okay. Even if you look at Gemini has different, they have three different models, the same model with different capabilities. If you look at, they have Gemini Pro, Gemini Lite, and other things, right? The same way Claude has Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. So, it depends upon the evaluation. So basically, sometimes what it is, and the smaller models, I mean, there are two aspects you can look at. One is from an application perspective. When you're building an application, you create an evaluation framework to see what model is going to give you the best value for you, and you use that based on that. So you create an evaluation framework, you run your models through it, and you look at the cost versus efficiency. Then based on which is going to give you the best value in the best value and the better accurate results. That's what you use when you're from an application perspective. But when you're running it something locally, when you're running it in chat gpt and other models, I would suggest you start with the middle model. So I mean, I usually start with, I mean, I am a big Claude fan. I usually start with Sonnet and say that the Sonnet can do that for me. I mean, I look at the capabilities. I mean, say that okay, if it doesn't need to do a lot of thinking, if it is just creating an email response back to me, I probably will go with Sonnet. But if I want to do a deep research on certain areas where I want to do some architectural brainstorming, or if I want to do something which is more complex, I will probably go for the Opus with thinking model. Did I answer
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Thank you. At least for, as a beginning, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want,
It
we can
was
discuss more about it. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Thank you. And
So,
thank you to KHNJ for hosting this session.
okay, now I see another question from Alina. Is it possible for model to, what was the question? Model to predict the cost of your query ahead of running it. It is possible because again, the way you should look at it, there are two different ways of running a query in an agentic system, right? One is you can do it with reasoning, without reasoning. So you can provide a reasoning. So I know it's a little technical, but again, you can provide a budget, how much thinking the model should do before giving an answer. In that way, you can have a tentative prediction on what is going to be the cost for you when you're running a thinking model. In the other models, you can say that this is the total response token limit that I want to put it. In that way, you can have a high level, you can just get some kind of an idea about rough level of costing of that. Did I answer your question, Alina? So the next question is related to governance you can suggest. There are a lot of good courses. I don't remember top of my mind. I can suggest you just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can definitely suggest you some of the courses. And I've written some aspects. If you look at ajithp.com, you'll find some of the detailed essays on the governance aspect. You probably can find some details from there.
Sure, thank you. To add to that, right, I know you're in the delivery transformation phase. Are there any specific AI tools or anything that you use? Because typically companies have their own dashboards. I mean, when we go into the leadership, it's all KPI metrics that we built it out manually, right? Do you use any specific tools, or is it custom built, or any insights on that?
So usually, I mean, the most important aspect right now you need to be keeping in your mind is there are a lot of new players coming into the picture. So the moment you get into a picture, I mean, a specific a company and start using it, you get into something called vendor lock. If that company goes bankrupt 2 months down the line, whatever you did, that is completely locked into that specific system. So I would suggest it is, and right now the coding or building something is very easy for you. So in that way, it's a good idea to have custom solutions than relying on small vendors. I'm talking small vendors. I'm not talking about big vendors. But again, it depends upon, in my perspective, it depends upon the different use cases that I handle. But I prefer to have something of custom of our own, which has no vendor lock-in.
Cool, thank you.
So there's another question from Vinod. Any recommendations, certification courses for business engagement specialists who are in the non-technical? Yes, so there are in Coursera, there is IBM Product Manager and Microsoft AI Product Manager courses, which I found, which is really good courses for you to get started with. It starts with a lot of fundamentals and it takes you to a little more advanced. And so that's probably something that you can explore. But if you have more questions, we can take it offline, Vinod. What tools do you use for observability and evaluation? There are a few good tools available. Available because usually what we try to do is we create our own custom observability tools. Again, the reason is it's again out of we don't want to get into the vendor lock-ins. But again, I don't remember top of the name. I don't remember the tools that is available, but I can send you that later, Sapna.
And also, Ajit, there is a question from Vishnu. Can you elaborate on different groups that was mentioned at Vibe coding slide?
Oh yeah, 1 second. Let me just go back. I'll just share that screen one more time and then we go back. Oops. So you're talking about this one, right? So this is like different kind of. So if you look at it, I just want to give it, analogy of the automated driving these days, right? ADAS has different. Am I sharing my screen?
No, no, Ajit. Yeah, yes, now I can see.
Okay. So primarily what it does is it's just a kind of a high level classification of what are the different kind of vibe coding levels you have, right? So you initially start with your auto complete. That was the IDEs that was primarily doing in the past. Then from there we had capabilities like GitHub Copilot had functionality like, okay, create test cases for specific ones, right? That's the second one we had. Now cursor and other capability, cursor and other IDs, especially Cloud Code and other software creation models has ability to say that you can build specific capabilities. Say that, okay, add a specific error handling for this or add a SSO authentication for the specific application. So what it does is it understands the code base. It goes go to the code base and try to build that specific component for you, and you'll have specific test cases that will run on the top of it. It'll give you the and once the coding is done, it creates a PR for you or pull request for you in your the favorite repository, and you review the code, make sure that whatever AI is written is accurately based on your coding standards and based on your enterprise safety requirements or security requirements, and you just commit that code. You personally commit the code. The AI writes the code, you review the code, and you commit the code. Next one is feature building, right? So feature building, what happens is you are not here. What you're doing is you're just asking it to build a specific module in your application. Feature building is more about, okay, now you have a chatbot. Now you say that I want to implement a history feature on it. Okay, so what it does is understand the logic. It understands the requirement. It goes and understand, okay, this is the code base that you have, this is the database structure you have. So based on this specific requirement, if I want to build a chat history, I need to have certain these extra tables to be created. The AI realizes that, and it also realizes that, and it also understands that, okay, for these tables I need to have these many columns. It understands those aspects, and it starts building that specific feature for you. So once the feature is built, it will, again, you have an ability to, you can say that it is a test driven one, where you can say that the success criteria for this specific feature is passing these test cases. So it can even create those test cases for you, can run the test cases for you and validate that for you. So that means you're building a specific feature in an application. So if you look at the next one is, you are building an entire product. If you look at it, you're saying that, okay, this is a product that I want to build. I want to build a product that is going to take my voice transcript, understand what it is, and convert that into a text. And it's going to create the action items or the meeting notes for me, right? So you just give that as a product requirement document, say that there should be an ability to upload a document, I mean, upload a audio file, and they should be able to transcribe it, and you should be able to use an AI, and it should be able to create a summary from it. You just give a product requirement document for that. Okay, so now what happens is, now it goes, it understands that, it decompose that problem into smaller chunks, understand that these are the different components to build. It goes and understand and build that specific small components for you, and build that entire application for you. So the next one is full autonomy, specs in. So if you look at, if it's again a little more advanced from the L4, which is more about, now you said that, okay, I mean, I want to have, if here you give the specific details. I mean, if you look at the spec driven development, you have given specific details that, okay, I need to have a screen to upload this file. I need to have an ability to use a specific model to do the language conversion and LLM summary and meeting notes and things like that. When you get to the full autonomy, what it does is, you just say that I need a system that can transcribe my voice notes into an actionable item. That's all you give. It understands everything else and build the entire end-to-end application. Vishnu, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, thank you. It does. I did have a follow-up question, right?
No, go ahead.
If we have time, I can go for that.
Go for it.
So, in this vibe coding, most of it is done in probably silos by an individual, right?
Mhm.
How do I hand over or transfer that to probably a second person? Have you come across any such scenarios where, let's say, a group of developers are working on a common product, right?
Mhm.
We need that commonality of understanding between different agents working on a similar structure.
Okay, very good question. So usually what you do is, I mean, usually you work on a repository, right? So when you build a repository, when you have a repository, in the repository, you give your requirements. So there is, I mean, I'll take an example of Cloud Code, or for this matter, for this specific example. So Cloud MD is the one where you can tell exactly about what your application spec should be, what is your common goals are, what exactly you need to build. It can be common, it can be Cloud Code, I mean, Cloud.md, or it can have a common spec that you can have that is shared, that lives in your repository, and or a common repository that you have, and then use that as a spec, and that gives the general guidelines and the objective of your application. Then you have different team members working on the same application from different computers, where they will create individual branches, and that branches will, they will start working on individual features of that application. Once that's done, you have a code review agent which will understand the context again, and it will create. So once this individual developer agents are completed, when they're done with the coding, they're not directly checking in the code, they create a PR. So this PR is reviewed by an agent who understand again the big picture of it, make sure that it is going through that review of it, and then they just put members that to the code, I mean, to the specific, dev branch or whatever, that the release branch that you're currently working on. So that's one aspect of it. And there, the most important thing you need to think about, you need to consider there is to be a test-driven development. When you're working on a specific aspect of a application, you make sure that your system, your agents are running at least a level of your integration or your regression testing on your application so that it makes it's not breaking anything.
Thank you. That answers what I was looking for.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
You can put it in the chat or you can ask if you have any questions.
So one thing you need to keep in your mind is this is not a scary aspect, okay? Because this is an interesting time where the whole world, as we see, is evolving into a different paradigm completely. So the most important aspect is you don't have to get scared about it. You need to make sure that you are relevant in this new industry. So the most important aspect is make sure that you have an awareness of how the AI is transforming, what are the new changes that's happening, how the industry is changing. So if you can keep that in mind and then you try to evolve yourself towards the future, that is going to make you successful.
Thank you, Ajit. I think we didn't get any other questions, so almost 10 minutes over.
Okay. And if you have questions, always reach out to me in LinkedIn, or you can always reach out to me on, most of the people are from KHNJ. You can definitely reach out to me directly.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining today's session.